Hello everybody, today I'm going to make Mike's family recipe for banana bread. It's quarantine time and we've been having this banana bread at least, well, we're making it about once a week and it lasts about 3 or 4 days. When we see bananas at the store, we buy a lot of them and then some of them go bad, so make banana bread. So I've got everything ready today in front of me, so hopefully the recipe will go much faster than my recipes usually do. So I'm going to start with 1 egg into a blender pitcher. And then 1 stick of butter into the same blender pitcher. And this is a trick that one of my coworkers told me about. So we tried it and we really liked the results. So we're doing that. And that is using the blender pitcher instead of just doing the mashing by hand. And then I here have a ½ a cup of sugar. And that's going to go in here as well. And 3 bananas. We've actually been doing more than 3 normally. We've had as many as 4 in here, so and if we have more than 4 bananas that have gone overripe, the dogs love overripe bananas too. So I'm just going to put these 3 bananas into the blender here. And what we found is that this technique gives you a super creamy, airy liquid mixture for the cake or banana bread. And for the blind viewers, I am just literally peeling the banana and taking the brown banana and just sticking it into our blender. All right, so I have my 3 bananas in the blender now. I'm going to put the lid on and give it a quick run on high pulse. That should have whipped up our egg because the egg was at the bottom. And now I'm going to pour in my milk, which is 1/3 of a cup of milk. And that will give the blender some liquid because blenders don't work so well without liquid in them. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, the bananas are not going down, so I'm just going to push them down by hand there. All right, we're going to get another check here. Ah, very creamy, very delicious. All right, so now we're going to do our dry ingredients. And the dry ingredients, I'm going to start with the smallest ingredient first, which is 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And here I have my salt cellar ready. And I didn't pre-measure the small, but I have in this bowl 2 cups of flour, now 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then I have baking powder. And baking powder is a single teaspoon. And you notice that the jar has like this lovely little lip there, which means what you can do is scoop out all the baking powder you want and just run the spoon along that edge and it smooths it out so you get a leveled spoon of baking powder. And we buy our baking soda in bulk, like many other things that we buy. So here I have just a portion of baking soda. And I'm going to just get a level teaspoon of it. Just use my finger across the top. There we go. And that is all of our dry ingredients. I'm going to grab my whisk now. And I'm just going to whisk these together really quickly, getting some air in there, making it as light and fluffy as possible. Okay, and now I'm going going to pour in my blender pitcher of mash. And I'm just tapping the bottom of the bowl and get my spatula here. Scrape as much out of this pitcher as possible. There we go, without cutting my spatula on the blades. And now I'm going to put in a splash of vanilla. I think the recipe calls for like a 1/4 teaspoon. I just put a splash in. There we go. And I'm just going to mix now. And again, this is Mike's grandmother's banana bread. And you want to make sure when you're mixing, you scrape the bottom of the bowl and the sides of the bowl to make sure all the dry get wet. Okay, and checking the texture here, it looks great. Last ingredient is walnuts. Recipe calls for about a 1/2 cup or a little bit more. I'm just going to use the rest of the bag I have here. In they go. And I'm just going to quickly stir these in, making sure they all get covered. Again, making sure the sides of the bowl and the bottom of the bowl are fully incorporated. Now the tricky part is making sure everything comes off my whisk, tapping it, and that's about the best I can do. All right, so now we're at the very final phase of the baking process. We're going to prepare our pan. I have a can of cooking spray. I think it's vegetable cooking spray, and I'm just going to hold the pan vertically, or sorry, on its side, and I'm just going to point the can of spray in. Now, Mike, when he does it, likes to hold it out this far. I actually hold it in close because as a blind person, I don't really want to make sure I miss, so just spray really quickly and then feel around the inside of the pan, wiping it around a little bit. And a little bit more, there we go. Just a very light little bit of spray. All right, so here we have our pan and we sprayed it with a little bit of oil. Now I'm going to put the parchment paper in, and you just want to put your hand over the center of the pan, pushing the parchment paper down, and you're going to try and get rid of the wrinkles in the edges there because those wrinkles will cause clumping in the side of your pan. And the piece of parchment paper I have here is a little oversized, but that's okay because this parchment paper stays on the cake the entire time. We leave it wrapped up in the parchment paper while we're serving it. Just put my lid back on the can of spray there. And now I'm holding the bowl over the pan, and I've got the wider edge of the pan towards the bowl. So almost the entire bowl diameter is under the pan, and I'm starting to pour our batter in. And it's not pouring because it's a very, very thick batter. What I'm going to do is turn it towards the camera here, and you'll see it's not pouring very quickly. So I'm just going to take the rubber spatula and encourage it to pour into our pan. All right, this is a rather awkward position. I don't normally do it with the bowl facing away from me, but I want the camera to see what I'm doing here. So I'm just pushing the batter into the pan from the bowl. Nuts and all. scraping the bowl down with my rubber spatula. And there we go. A little bit of wasted batter probably, but not much. Now, the trick is to not get it outside of the paper and flatten it out on top. So I'm just going to shake it, tap it on the counter, and voila, we're done. That is our banana bread batter, and we'll come back in an hour to an hour and a quarter and see how it looks when it's baked. All right, so here we have our final product, and the recipe says an hour to an hour and a quarter. This has actually only been in for 50 minutes, and you can see it's just a little dark. I think I may have had my oven turned up a little too high. Supposed to bake at 325, but let's flip it out here. Just take our pan away, and we'll take a look. So you see we have a nice cake. All right, so here we have a nice cake, and I've just got a bread knife here, and I'm just going to cut the end off. Just a nice little slice off of our banana bread loaf. And straight through. Not sure why it's sticking together there. And there we have our nice, beautiful interior crumb. You can see the walnuts there. Delicious. Hope you enjoy Mike's grandmother's banana bread.